hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing?
How you doing?
I'm Brent Thomas, and this is the Paranormal Portal. This is our Wednesday live stream. Don, you want to kill your sound?
Oh, sorry. Pardon me.
That's all right. It's not we're not really that green actually, but this is the Paranormal Portal, our VIP Wednesday live stream, YouTube only. So glad you guys are here. Welcome to the show. It's been a phenomenal week, I think. Pretty good. Been good for me. Been very productive, and a lot of things are in flux and changing, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Before I go any further, let me welcome my good friend and co-host, Mr. Don Longbeard, to the show.
Hola, good evening.
Hi.
Oh,
you're kind of off. Well, you're kind of sitting sideways now. Oh, no, there you go.
Well, no, I mean, even if I sit sideways, I mean.
Weird. We had this all dialed in. We had it all dialed in.
Crazy.
But, I think we're okay, though.
So I'm glad you had a good week.
Yeah, it's been going good. How's your been?
Yeah, well, mine started off on Sunday by passing the McDonald's and getting nailed in the right corner panel.
Yeah, you did. That's right.
Yeah, it sucked.
Well, you're okay, and your car, for all intents and purposes, didn't do too bad. I know you don't know quite what the damage is, but if you're going to get hit or have to go through an accident, that's the one to go through.
Yeah, no doubt. It still works, and just
does.
need to get it looked at and checked out. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you can still drive it. That's always a plus.
But otherwise, I made it to Wednesday pretty nice.
You did. Yeah, I mean, we all did. And happy Hump Days Eve, everybody. Hope you've had a wonderful week. Before I go much further, let me get right into some of the changes that are coming up. And I put a notice out on YouTube or on Facebook, on Twitter, on our MeWe page. Don's been sharing it, and several other listeners have been sharing it. But the news is the Paranormal Portal will be moving into a new time slot on Friday and Saturday nights. And we will begin broadcasting at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So it's a full 3 hours earlier than what you're presently used to. So I hope that helps some of you guys catch the show if you're really struggling. I know that, how many times have we heard, oh, I was going to watch a show, but I fell asleep. Or I was listening and I just was so tired I fell asleep. So
yeah, definitely.
So hopefully you guys can stay awake a little better. Now, I know it's tough in the middle of the night. And depending on where you're at, I mean, some of you guys get our show starting at 1 a.m. And not over until 3, and that's a whole different kind of madness trying to stay up for the show, and it really makes me appreciate what you guys
do for us.
Yeah, do to take a part in the portal. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Absolutely.
So thank you guys, and hopefully this will make it quite a bit easier.
So that's 7 PST and 10 Eastern.
Yeah, that would be 10 Eastern time. Yep. So,
excellent.
Yeah.
So, Lady D, you don't have to stay up so late. Neither does Pixie. By the way, where is she?
I don't know. She didn't. She'll probably wander in. But anyway, that's the big news. So, again, on Friday, Saturday nights, it'll be 7 p.m. Pacific time. So, basically, all of our shows now, Wednesday stream, Friday, Saturday, will start at the same time, which should help. I know that sometimes when the time slots shuffle, it's hard to keep track of which day you're on. I mean, I struggle with that myself. So.
No, it doesn't matter. It's all at 7 o'clock, 3 nights a week.
Yeah, exactly. So you all should be able to hear it. Now, the only one downside is that our good friend Mr. Longbeard won't be able to join us initially on Friday, but on Fridays.
Soon.
But he's trying to see what he can do in his personal schedule to make that happen so that he can continue to take part in all of the shows that we do, and I hope he can. it's been a pleasure having you here, and
thank you,
it'll
sir.
certainly be odd to do shows again without you now that I've been so used to it.
Well, then you can just turn up that 432 hertz and just be at peace.
I am at peace. I'm always at peace, Don.
Well, I mean, just relax through the show.
Oh yeah, no,
By yourself.
I'm not stressed
Just
about
remember the good old days.
it. I loved doing the show
Uh-huh.
ever since I've started doing it, but I can tell you that the comparison of doing them alone, and one of the reasons, there were several reasons that I decided to bring you in full, for every show. And that was A, because people were saying, gosh, you guys have such a great time and it's so much fun to listen to you. And B, it sure makes my life a lot easier when you're here. I mean, you can help me keep an eye on things and help, keep the chats rolling. And I can't watch that stuff when I'm doing it solo. I miss.
Co-pilot.
Yeah, I miss so much doing it all by myself. So it's been a real wonder having you here. And so I hope you can work that out in your schedule. So
Yeah, I'm going to see what I can do.
yeah, excellent. So that'll be happening this weekend, starting this Friday, ladies and gentlemen. We're moving to the earlier time slot, so we will be following Freaky Friday on Fridays, and we will be following Fearless with Frank on Saturdays. So it's just going to be a great lineup, and I hope that this will allow a lot more people to become acquainted with the portal and seeing what we do.
More of a primetime spot.
Right, exactly. So it's really exciting, and hopefully some wonderful things will come of it. But don't forget, this Friday, don't wait till 10.
Don't wait till 10.
Pacific.
Don't do it.
Yeah, just coming early.
Yeah. So if you actually think you're going to tune in to Beyond the Veil, you're actually tuning into the Paranormal
Portal. That's right. And the Beyond the Veil will follow us on both nights. Friday will be an encore presentation, but Saturdays are expected to be live shows, so that'll be wonderful as well.
So they are going to do their 3-hour show just 3 hours later?
Right, they're going to start later, yep. So, wonderful. And so that's the big news up and coming, and really excited about that. I'm really excited for what it can mean for us on the show, and helping it to grow and become bigger, better, greater than ever before. So that's the big news. But tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into Saved by the Paranormal. And the idea behind this is that many people, in the form of many different ways in the paranormal experience, have claimed that they have been saved by paranormal beings, by paranormal what is the word? Or like premonitions.
Premonitions. Sure.
Some people from dreams
Yep.
that they've avoided, either death, or they've avoided a lot of injury and harm, or just dangerous situations. And so I thought it'd be kind of fun to get into that tonight. It's something that we have done before, but it's been quite a long time, and it's a subject that I think is just absolutely phenomenal because, of course, I think the paranormal in and of itself is incredibly phenomenal. And I think in more cases than not, I think most paranormal encounters are probably trying to help us in some way or another. It's just oftentimes we experience them and our initial reaction is, oh my God, that chair moved. Well, exactly. And people having dreams of fires and not sure what's going on. And are these dreams messages from people? Are they premonitions of the future? And it's hard to ascertain what exactly is the mechanics of what's going on. But I think that these things happen in the form of bad feelings. You go into a place, you get a bad feeling. It could be your spirit guides or someone that, one of your deceased relatives going, hey, get out of here. This is not a good place for you. Get out. And so they put that fear in you to make you really uncomfortable and leave. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are more subtle like that. And, a lot of people call that intuition. And perhaps it either is that we're able to tap into some higher form of consciousness ourselves, or perhaps there are those ancestors and guardians and angels around us that step in when things are getting risky and try to help us. So that's what tonight's show is, and I think it's a great topic, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well. So what do you think of all that, Don?
Well, you know what? I'm all for it. Because you know what? They're going to be good stories, I bet.
Right, but I mean your personal opinions of it.
Oh, my personal opinion? I always go with gut instinct, intuition.
Mm-hmm.
When something like that happens, because I've never had somebody go, hey, Don, move it.
Right.
Get out of the room. Well, except for, people. But, I I'll go with gut feeling, intuition anytime over, oh, that was my grandma saying you should probably do something there. It's just one of those things. It's as I've said before, it's one of those things from not feeling that I had ever had a paranormal encounter.
Okay.
Now, I've had some pretty close calls with some paranormal women, but that's just different. But no, I gut feeling, intuition.
Okay.
That's the way I would go with that particular.
Sure, and in some cases that would be the case. It's like a toss-up. You can define it however you want.
Right.
When you got that bad feeling, was it from your intuition,
Right.
you sensing something that's beyond your normal sense,
Right.
or is it a message of some sort from another being or entity? And who knows? Who can really dial into that? And most of us can't. So it's whatever definition is comfortable in your paradigm, and either are fine. Both are right. I mean, either
Right.
way, because either you're picking up on a something that's beyond the normal, whether it's given to you or you're experiencing it on your own. So yeah, I think that's a fantastic way of looking at it, and that makes perfect sense to me. But I just think this will be a fun topic to cover, ladies and gentlemen. So without further ado, let's take a look and see who's all here tonight. Who's here so far? I see Doc is in here.
Yep.
Ken is in here.
Yep.
Julia, MCAT, Lady Death.
Sean's here.
Sean is here. Excellent. Yeah, I said hello to Sean earlier.
Dan Pruitt.
Dan Pruitt. Mr. Pruitt, I'm expecting at some point to hear from you, sir. So you're kind of on report. We're going to get Dan back on the show in some form or another.
There we go.
In whatever capacity we can, when we can. Now, Dan is an incredibly busy guy. He's always all over the map, and I know that after that, I'm sure family time is the most important. But
Absolutely.
we're going to try to get him back on the show as soon as we can.
We also have Diana Daniels.
Oh, Diana Daniels in here.
Yes,
Good. Summer Led, I see. Hello. Good to see you. And Kurt made it in. Excellent.
Did we forget Renee? We can't forget
Renee.
if we did.
Absolutely not. Don't forget Renee.
No, can't do that.
So awesome. Outstanding. We're glad you guys are here.
Cy Energos.
Dan says,
Energos.
video editor open as we speak. Outstanding, yeah. Well, I mean, not only because of that. I mean, if you want to follow up with that, that'd be brilliant. I'd love that. But I'd also just love to have you back on the show. So let me know when you got time, brother. We'll be waiting for you. So, and again, ladies and gentlemen, if you've had a paranormal experience of your own and would like to share it, please do. Please email us at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. And we'd be happy to discuss the situation with you if you need help. We have resources. Lately, a lot of people have been taking advantage of the resources we have, and it's really been proved to be incredibly helpful. And I'd like to say a special thank you to Sean, who is in the chat room as Ian's Magic Oak.
Yep.
He's been going above and beyond for a lot of listeners lately, done a phenomenal job, and thank you so much, sir, for being a part of the family and being there to help so many people that have needed it. You've been amazing, so thank you. But tonight also the call-in number will not work. Oh, there's Pixie.
Yeah,
She's
there
in
she is. Yeah, she's late, but
so don't call in if you would like to speak with us. You can't do it tonight because that's the studio line, which only works Friday and Saturday nights. So unless you want to complain, then you can call.
We encourage you.
That's the running joke. That's the Wednesday night complaint line is always open. Just call and tell them what you don't like about the show. You won't care too much, but you can tell them anyway. It'll be good to get it off your chest.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of these stories, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, did we say Doc? Yeah, we said Doc.
Yeah, Doc's here. Yeah.
It's good to see you, Doc.
Yeah.
All right.
He's taking off. He's got to go do something. He'll be back before the show ends, though.
Oh, that's what he thinks. Well, you never know how long we're going to go. This is Wednesday. It's a free-for-all. We don't have a schedule on Wednesdays.
No schedule.
So
No schedule.
let's get into some of these tales, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see what we can find out here. What did I got here? I got to see what I got here. A ghost saved my life. This is a good start. A ghost saved my life.
Yeah.
When I was about 4 years old, my nan was looking after me, and her house was a really nice one, except for downstairs. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're hearing that music in the background, that is 432 megahertz music. It's supposed to be really good for keeping us in a harmonious state. And I figured I'd share it with you guys as well
Fingers
as background
crossed.
music. So if you're feeling more harmonious than normal, you're welcome.
And we have the Ghost Box app going again.
That's right, yeah. And it did say Donna before the show, and I'm pretty sure it was trying to say Don.
No.
But Don's convinced that's not his name, and he's not going to acknowledge it.
Donna's not my name. That's all there is to it.
Or is it?
Or is it? Yeah,
All
you see this? I dare anyone else to grow one.
Yeah.
One named Donna.
I couldn't. I would have to glue that on, Don. I
Why'd you
never
want
had much for whiskers.
Cut it off and glue it on.
Yeah.
Use spirit gum.
All right. When I was 4 years old, my nan was looking after me, and her house was a really nice one, except for the downstairs. Downstairs made you feel terrible. There was definitely something there. My mom, me, and my aunt all felt a presence and felt as though we were being watched. Being 4 years old, and I was very wary of going down there. So this day I was riding around down upstairs on my little plastic bike, and Nan insisted on me staying away from the stairs. The stairs were extremely steep, and my mind is a blank from the time I was riding around until I somehow found myself facing the stairs. I remember looking down the stairs and thinking, how did I get here? Then I felt myself being pushed, and there I was, hurtling down the stairs on this plastic bike. Based on the laws of physics, the bike should have tumbled over, throwing me off at face first. Yet somehow I remained balanced enough. Thinking back, it seems impossible how I could have done so. Not only this, with the speed I was going down the stairs, I should have been thrown straight through the glass window, which was only about a meter from the bottom stair. As I reached the bottom, I felt my bike and me stop dead as though someone had caught me. So it seems as though someone had made me go to the stairs, push me down where I could easily have been killed, but then I was also stabilized and saved from breaking my neck while hurtling down the stairs, and then caught at the bottom and stopped from flying through a thick glass window. Perhaps there were two people there, one trying to hurt me and one trying to save me. I don't know. What do you reckon? Also found out after Nan had moved that two owners of the house had died. Prior, I guess.
Wow.
Huh? Well, there you go.
Wow.
Maybe they didn't like each other.
Yeah, it's like the good, the good angel on one side, and
Right.
the devil on the
Yeah.
other. They're pushing and pulling back and forth.
Right. Yeah, that could be the proverbial angel and demon right there.
You know?
It's hard to know, but yeah, I mean, some people allegedly are not real kind in death because they probably weren't very kind in life.
And
But
some people aren't very coordinated.
that's true. I mean, yeah, that's creepy. Now, have you ever done that, Don, where you're like, you can almost will yourself into something going wrong?
Oh yeah.
Like you'll see something and go, God, I hope I don't do that because that's going to hurt. And then no matter what you do, you end up going towards that.
Right. Or even going, God, I know this is going to happen. I know this is going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
And you manifest
you do.
it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it's the same thing, really.
It's almost paranormal though the way it works because I mean every ounce of you is screaming no.
Oh my God,
but it's like
no.
you're on this flip reverse thought pattern. You're willing it to happen or something. I don't know how that works, but oh my God, I've done that so many times when I was younger. Especially when I was downhill skiing, it's like, no, I don't want to go down. Oh, no.
That's exactly where I'm going.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, hang on, here we go. This is going to hurt. So it's happened. I don't know how that works, but that's a whole different kind of paranormal, I guess.
Yeah, definitely that.
So the next one, the voices that saved my life. So prior to the following experience, I wouldn't hesitate to blame some doofus move on my part on the voices I hear in my head. The voices made me do it. That was such a funny thing to say. Little did I know or understand back then that the voices you have in your head can actually be a real thing. The story isn't terribly scary, but it is one of the top standouts for me as far as the litany of paranormal experiences I've had over the years. Thinking of this experience warms my heart and makes me so very thankful because it combined with the other later occurrences eventually convinced me that there are such things as guardian angels, or at least helpful spirits that appear when you need them the most. A little background first for context, please bear with me. This experience happened during late summer. Let me just turn that down a little bit. Where was I? This experience happened during late summer or very early fall of 1996 in the Kansas City, Missouri area. Back then, I was just starting my career as a newspaper reporter. I worked very long hours, always taking my work home with me to finish. Meanwhile, I had a young child in daycare, and it was my responsibility to pick him up from daycare before 6 p.m. My son's father, we lived together, was a chef, and he worked 12-hour days. So after work, I would pick up our son, fix dinner, spend quality time playing or just loving on him for a while, and then put him to bed. Excuse me. His father would get home between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. on most days. I would resume work after he got home. Although we could pay our bills, we did not have disposable income. This meant I did not have a computer at home, and I needed one to be able to work from home. Computers were an enormous expense to us, so I would leave our house late at night and travel 20 or so minutes to my younger brother's house. He lived in a burb of the suburbs, kind of rural, to work on his computer and then save my work to a floppy disk. The days of floppy disks. I was so thankful that my brother allowed me to tiptoe inside of his house late at night so that I could better balance my work and home life responsibilities. Thanks, P. That's what she says. So I imagine that's her brother, Paul, or something. On this particular evening, I finished my work around 1 a.m. and jumped into my ancient Honda Accord to head home. I was alert but tired. I turned down the main road from my brother's house and noticed that the night was filled with fog. I was a little unnerved as it was in the wee hours of the morning, dark and foggy, and I was the only one on the road in the middle of semi-nowhere. Beautiful area, but sparse back then. I fumbled through radio stations looking for something to distract me and landed on a public radio station. A Native American song was on, and I enjoyed the rhythm of the music. The song was primarily steady drum beats with long-spoken chanting, perfect for a dark, foggy night. I noticed that the night sky would break through the fog every now and then, and I could see a bit of moonlight hit the two-lane road. This isn't terribly relevant, just one of those things that make me thankful that I can enjoy such beauty. I was thinking of this beauty and enjoying the rhythmic chanting when out of nowhere I heard voices say, "Slow down." The words were clear as day, which sent chills up and down my spine that made the hair on my arm stand up. It was a calm tone, but it sounded like more than one person saying it at the same time. And although I knew I was alone in the car, I still looked over at the passenger seat, as if someone was sitting there. Nope, empty. Looked in the back seat, empty too. Feeling a bit crazy, I told myself I am just simply hearing things that aren't there. Or perhaps it was the wind. Nope, no wind, and no regular conversations happening on the radio either. I looked at my speedometer to check my speed. Not too bad. Almost 55 mile per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone. Meh, I don't need to slow down, I thought. No one is on the road at this hour, and it's a straight shot, minus a few minor hills and such, to the highway home. I'm fine, sort of. I was feeling a little scared. I really thought I heard a group of people speak to me, but no one was in the car with me, so I decided that I must be making stuff up in my head and had better get home and get to bed soon. Just as I started to relax back into my drive home, I heard it again, "Slow down." This time it was louder and more pronounced, with a pause in between, slow and down. And I definitely heard more than one voice in there. The tone of this message sort of sounded like a parent giving you that second warning. You know, the one that happens before all hell breaks loose. Oh, sweet Jesus. The chills were busy dancing on my spine again. This time I turned my radio off, silence. Not only was I feeling scared, disembodies weren't something I was used to at the time, but I was also getting frustrated. I tend to get a little feisty when I don't have immediate answers. Who wants me to slow down? Why? What is going on? Am I crazy? I must be crazy because no one else is in the car with me. I took a couple of deep breaths as I struggled to understand the who, what, why, where, and when. I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience. I didn't have much time to ponder this further. "Slow down now," they yelled at me. No mistaking this. I was hearing voices, and they were attached to some very upset people that I couldn't see. I quickly slammed on my brakes, It was one of those moments where you just throw caution to the wind and give in to your situation and go with it. It no longer mattered if I was absolutely losing my mind. I was too scared to do anything else. And just as my car stopped, a herd of deer appeared, running from one side of the road to the other, right in front of me, inches from my car, one after the other, and there were bucks in this herd donning those beautiful but deadly antlers. And when I thought the last one had crossed the road, I began to lift my foot from the brake and heard, "Wait." So I waited, and a few more deer crossed the road. I waited a little longer and heard, "Okay." I gently pressed on the gas pedal and was headed home slowly. As I drove home, I was in shock and awe. I have somewhat of an analytical mind, so I tried to rationalize this situation as I drove home and for days afterward. In time, I came to understand that these voices simply came from the heavens or some other dimension that I couldn't see and saved my life. We are not alone here after all. I also said thank you many times to whomever yelled at me. I thanked them for not giving up when I was too stubborn to listen. Pretty much the story of my life for many, many years. Frankly, I wasn't sure who to thank at the time. I struggled with God back then, quite upset with God and anything remotely related to religion at the time. We all have our issues, eh? So I just kept saying thanks to the open air in my car. At the end of the day, I decided that it didn't matter, that I couldn't explain what happened. I was just thankful that it did happen, and although I believe it highly probable, I can't say for sure I can't say for sure my 2-year-old son would have lost his mother had I hit those beautiful creatures. I'm just thankful, more than words can ever say, that I will never know. The voices visited me again a few years later, and once again saved my life. I hope to share that story with you in the near future. Thanks for reading my story.
Huh.
So, very cool. Now that's a pretty insistent voices. I mean, usually you only get one shot at that. You know, it's like, hey, don't go in there. I'm going in there. Oh, damn, this wasn't a good idea. You know, you don't get 3 warnings, like slow down now. So you don't hear about those very much.
Nope.
But that's pretty powerful. And there again, this was a disembodied voice, another manifestation. But
let me cardiac tap fam in the chat room. Our email address is paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. There you go.
Excellent. And you got a story to share?
Yeah, she's got one. I believe it's a she. I met her last week when we were helping that other family, or trying to help that other family. So I believe
wonderful.
It's a she, and
okay.
Hopefully she'll send us a story.
Excellent. Okay, well, thanks for doing that. That'll be wonderful. If you get it in, I suppose I could read it tonight. I usually like to read listener emails and stuff on Friday, Saturday nights, because that's when we're on the network, and so more people are exposed to it. And I just think it's great, and it may help other people decide to email in. But if it's something that you would rather I read tonight, please let me know in the email, and I would be happy to do that. So we'll keep watching for it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now, where was I? Let me close that one.
Yep, that's the one you read.
Yes, it is. Now,
Nice.
This one's a guardian angel saved us. Now, this is pretty cool. And again, many people, many religions talk of these divine beings, angels. Some have them winged, some are not winged, but they're these glowing divine beings that show up. And are they there or aren't they? Well, I hope they are. I think that's a wonderful thing if they are, and if they're, working to always try to help people and protect them and keep things good in the world that's absolutely screwed up. That'd be good. So I don't know what you feel about guardian angels, but I'm going to read this story to you anyway. Okay. My youngest son has autism and attends a school that specializes in a wide range of differing abilities. I had attended his progress meeting, and as it finished close to the end of the school day, had decided to take him out of the 20 or so minutes early, walk into the nearby town, and treat him to dinner as he had gotten an excellent review. The school was set back from a quite busy road, and So obviously there is a crossing available for safety, and I always use it as there is traffic coming in both directions and is always busy and fast moving. I also encourage my son to use it, as due to his differing perceptions, he doesn't comprehend dangerous situations, and I'm constantly drilling road safety into him. Using the crossing, look both ways, etc. Anyway, we pressed the button to stop traffic, as I always do. I was holding his hand and coaching him. What do we wait for? The green man. Yes, that's right, we do.
Uh-oh.
Cue the green man. It flashes up, and a loud beeping sound lets us know that we are safe to walk across. We are crossing the second half of the road, and I look to my left and see a car coming towards us faster than it should be. It's not stopping for the lights. My son is on the left side, and it's going to hit him. I feel panic rising in my chest. I can't breathe, and there's not a thing I can do. Too late to run and no way to go to either side to avoid it. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, I felt a breeze lift my hair, and suddenly I feel totally calm, almost protected. Yes, I know how strange this sounds. I really can't explain it because seconds before, my heart was pounding. I was terrified and convinced we were going to be mowed down. But no, the car stops just before it hit my legs. Wait, my legs? Where's my son? I look to my right, and there he is, looking up at me and smiling. I don't remember moving him to that side at all. I'm having a what just happened moment when my attention is drawn to the driver, who is leaning out of his window yelling at me and asking if I bleeping know how to cross a bleeping road, as I'm obviously bleeping sight impaired, quite a charming individual. Usually by now I would have been trying to hold my temper and not respond negatively due to my son being present, but I still felt really calm. I just pointed up the finger to the green man still shining brightly and said, "Why, yes, I do." The driver looks up, turns pale, then quickly drives around us and speeds off. I quickly steer my son to the other side of the road, and people from the other vehicles surround us, checking that we are okay, and others try and remember the license plate number, but everyone was in shock at what they had just witnessed. Suddenly, my feeling of calm disappears, and my legs literally turn to jelly. Everyone around us is telling us we are lucky to be alive. They thought we were going to be killed. And I have to admit it, I'm not sure how we are stood there unharmed. An older gentleman pats me on the shoulder and says, "Well, young lady, someone was watching over you today." Later on, I start thinking about it. Could he have been right? Was something watching over us? I remembered the sudden feeling of total calm and protection that came over me. The fact my son was suddenly on my right when I know he was on my left side initially, and I have no recollection of him moving or moving him myself. Did I just do it instinctively and not realize it? I'm not sure. It happened so quickly, but it seemed at that time that everything was in slow motion. Was it just luck, a guardian angel perhaps? I welcome any thoughts on this. I don't know, but it's a beautiful story. That's absolutely really, really cool.
You know, in situations like that, the only thing that was really sad was there was this warm breeze, and all of a sudden, the car stops and the kid's on the opposite side.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they only move the kid? Why didn't they move both of them 10 feet to the left or right or forward back?
Maybe
so
it was just enough to keep them out of harm.
Whatever.
You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean,
I'm not going to flex the big muscles today. We're just going to move the pinky a little.
Well, it's like saying, why didn't they get a bigger miracle? It's like, well, they got a miracle. That's pretty cool.
Well, that's true.
But I understand what you're saying. But at the same time, it's like, man, I'm glad somebody showed up. That's really cool to help them out of that situation. I've heard stories like that. When I was younger, our family was best friends with a family that lived near us, and they were best friends, were great friends with another couple who swear that an angel took over driving for them.
Oh.
What was going on is it was a dark, stormy, rainy night on a 2-lane road, and they were going one direction, and suddenly they see a semi, and another semi shoots out to pass. So both lanes are now blocked.
Right.
And it's raining and storming. There's nowhere to go. There's no way to stop. They hit the brakes, but they're sliding. And suddenly, the man who was driving is in the back seat.
Oh, I remember.
And in the driver's seat is this glowing person. And there's suddenly a magical lane appears on the right. And he just simply steers over into this lane, drives past, steers back, and boom, the guy's back in the driver's seat. Like somebody quickly took over, created a lane, drove him out of that risk, and then brought him back up. And the woman was there and saw this all too. So
Right.
Apparently they were convinced, and I can see why they were convinced that an angel took over and drove the car for him and got him out of what would surely have been a mess,
dangerous situation,
or lethal. Yeah, it could very well have been lethal.
Right.
But yeah, pretty cool. So these things apparently happen, ladies and gentlemen, which is really encouraging because, that's the thing with this kind of stuff. It's like some people may scoff at this kind of ideas and say, well, there's nothing. But, what do you gain by believing in such things? Well, you gain a sense of wonder. You gain a sense of love that we're not alone, that there are these nurturing beings around us, whether they were relatives that passed or, just kind spirits, or if they are angelic beings or otherwise, or saints or whatever comes.
Right.
That's a beautiful thing to believe in, and it certainly doesn't deserve ridicule. Excuse me, but what do people that don't believe in this gain? Absolutely nothing. Their world is cold and lonely, and
Thanks.
there is nothing. Well, you believe in something.
Okay.
It's not like you don't have any belief.
Well, that's true.
But what I'm talking about is the people that scoff at stuff like this, and they just, that's a bunch of bunk. There's nothing like that happened. They must have been on drugs, It's like to remove that beauty from the world and to try to shame other people
Right.
for believing it is just such an ugly and horrible thing.
Yeah, that is a bit different, though. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So,
Because I'll still let you walk along and say, well, that's you. That's
right,
great.
yeah, exactly.
Peace out.
Yeah, and I know that you have some very profound beliefs of your own, and the beauty of it is that you don't try to.
It's not my job to press it onto other people,
right? Exactly.
Or tell people how dumb they are. It's not my job.
Right.
My job is to just look at it, be objective, and maybe someday I might come to a conclusion.
Right. You may get one of your own, and then you'll be a true believer.
There you go. Right.
Exactly. So it's just I don't know why some people are just adamant to destroy the beauty of that
Absolute
for other
skeptics.
people. Right. Yeah. Why is it necessary for them to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just my thoughts, but I think that having a belief is a wonderful thing.
Right.
And to those that don't have a belief, that's still a belief.
Well, yeah.
You just believe in nothing.
It's free choice. You have that choice.
Right.
And you're absolutely right. It's still a belief,
right,
whether you believe it or not.
and those kind of people get so pissy when people that have a belief share their beliefs, but they have no problem sharing their beliefs right back and saying,
right.
No, there is no such this in that, and it's all just sharing beliefs.
Right.
And one doesn't threaten the other or doesn't invalidate the other. It's just differing opinions. And I feel bad for people that have no room in their hearts for that or in their lives for that, because there is magic and wonder still around us.
Sure, absolutely.
I believe it, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I'm sitting here with Don doing the show, because I got an open mind. And how many are with us now, Don?
25.
25 of you. That's
yeah, 25, and we only have 14 likes. Why is that?
I don't know. It's
there's
Common Core math.
Oh my goodness. Well, that explains why Julia couldn't figure it out.
Ooh.
Because I just typed in there 25 and 14. Julia says 25 and 14.
Yeah, it's just.
It's Common Core math is beyond me as well.
I know. Well, I don't know. I mean, you certainly, none of you are compelled to hit the like button, but it certainly helps the channel.
Absolutely.
If you do, so if you wouldn't mind, if you're in the watching this episode, please hit the like button, because it definitely helps to promote the portal in YouTube's suggested videos. They will suggest videos with more likes.
Right. Yep.
So, Let's get to the next
Oh,
one.
it popped up 4 just within that discussion.
Ooh.
Thank you.
Thank you. To see, Don, there is goodness in angels. Why, I've seen the glory and the light. It has come in the form of blessings.
Ask and ye shall receive.
Amen, brother.
Now we just need 7 more.
All right. Yeah, we'll get there. All right, so what is coming up next here? Let's see. My grandfather saved me. Let's see. Let's get past the first fluffy stuff. I am 34 years old. In June of this year, I was diagnosed with a tumor behind my eye, which meant that my brain is not releasing the fluids. So the specialist said that I must go for an operation to put in a shunt. I was very scared of doing it, and I had the feeling that I will not survive the operation. Eventually, my family talked me into going for the operation. In July, they operated on me, and everything was going wonderfully. I felt like a new person. However, everything changed a week after the operation. The second night I was home, I was still unable to move around and do things on my own. The night I told my husband I am not feeling too well, when I finally get to sleep, something weird happens. I saw my grandfather. He passed away some 8 years before, in the corner of my room, and he was standing there with tears in his eyes. I immediately woke up, and I was feeling very bad. I was sweating a lot, and my head is killing me, and I asked my husband if he saw my grandfather, and he said no. And I told him about what I saw and said, maybe it's the pain medication that is working or something. By the time it was morning, I was so sick that he rushed me to the hospital. At the hospital, they took my vitals. My blood pressure was very low. Due to the fact that they don't have any beds in hospital, they sent me home telling us that if the situation gets worse, I must come back. So we went home, and I got so bad that my blood pressure was 40/26. My God. As I was sleeping, my grandfather appeared again in the same corner of the room. He was looking at me, and for the first time, I felt calmness coming over me. And I heard him clearly saying, "It's not my time to go. I must hang in, and everything will be okay." What happened after that, they had to do an emergency operation. The shunt had a problem. The doctor saw me after everything was over, and he said it's a miracle that I am still alive. I believe that my grandfather was looking over me this whole time. Thank you. Yeah, no kidding. That's wonderful.
Wow, yeah.
And I really do believe that those loved ones who have passed and have, crossed over, they do. I really believe that they are also our guardian angels, that they look over us and keep tabs on us, and I think that they do wonderful things. Yep. So next we have, is this a ghost or an angel that saved me? Sorry, I had to sniffle.
That wasn't a sniffle. That was a snort.
It was a snort. I'm telling you, I'm like, I don't know what's going on lately, but I'm just totally pluggy.
No, I'm kind of the same way. I've kind of, it felt like a cold I've had for the last week, and I wonder if it's all this.
Chemtrails. No, it's probably all the smoke.
It's chemtrail cough.
Yeah.
No, it's probably the smoke. Yeah, you're right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're up in the northern tip of Idaho, and unfortunately, with all of the forest fires burning all around us. In fact, last week, we had worse air quality than like anywhere else in the whole world.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, the air index was like terrible.
So before we had that rain, I think it was on Sunday, so when the rain came down the next day, they said, yeah, now your air is safe to breathe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because It was unsafe to breathe before then.
And nobody bothered to tell us.
Well, it's one of those things. You got to,
Nice.
Wow.
Wow, that's horrible. Yeah, I know. I must be. That must be why I've been so congested myself, and I guess it's just part of the process.
Yeah,
but
it could be.
It's beautiful 90% of the time up here, but when the forest fires come, it's just horrendous.
Well, it's still beautiful in a lot of ways. I
know, but it's just got that feeling.
Moon becomes it's a gloomy feeling.
Yeah, it's just horrible. It's just all that destruction.
Always wear a mask.
Yeah, I guess
thanks,
so.
Pixie.
Absolutely.
This just doesn't cut it.
Just fold your beard up, Don.
Fold my beard up.
It's your beard is HEPA rated.
At 1%.
Yeah. All right. I do know that a light comes to take people's soul into the afterlife when they're close to death or have died. That's how the story starts, so that's good. When I was 8 years old, I was drowning when I jumped into a body of water which I thought was shallow, and I went down to the bottom of the deep trench. I was by the trench with some relatives who were fishing, and I thought that area was shallow by the narrow side of the trench. And after looking at my relatives standing in wide area, and they seemed to be okay, but of course they were taller and older than I, and the smaller area of the trench was so deep that I just went down and floated away. I could actually feel the current of the water taking me away from my relatives as I went deeper into the trench. At this time, I do not know how long I have been under the water, but a big, bright yellow light was shining on me, and if you look into it, it looks like a big, long, yellow tunnel filled with light. When I was in this light, I felt so happy, and on to this day. I cannot explain why I was so happy. I guess the light was supposed to make people extra happy so that they could forget their worries. The light just makes you feel like you just want to go in it and never return or think about anything else. It was a feeling of going with the flow of happiness, which means going into the light. I also had to stay in the light because when I looked behind me, it was so dark and there was water all around me. I was afraid of how dark and dainty? It says dainty, D-A-I-N-T-Y. How dark and gloomy it looked behind me. And I was afraid that I was going to drown in that body of water behind me. Suddenly a white female with red hair and a long white dress emerged from the light. And I thought she was a mermaid, and she was probably going to hurt me, and I was so afraid. However, I did not see her feet, but she looked rather tall, slim, and her hair was about shoulder length, and she was really pretty. She was about 19 or 20 years of age. Her white dress was short-sleeved, and the neck was square cut, not round. I guess this female sensed the terror in me, and she told me not to be afraid. She scooped me up, and she moved so quickly with me that I felt like she was rocking me in trying to get me up in the water. At this time, I could hear my relatives talking, and she told me to put my hands up. I guess she wanted them to see me so that they can help me out of the water. I've told a few people about this experience. About 3 years ago, when my mom passed away, I asked one of the ladies at my mom's funeral about the incident, and I told her something happened to me while I was in the water, and she told me that I was only in the water for about 5 minutes, and she pulled me out. Anyway, maybe 5 minutes is way too long for a child to be underwater with no air, and I guess I was dying and that the light came for me to take my soul or to help me. I am glad that I was helped instead because my family would have been really upset if I had passed away in that body of water. Sorry. I have been upset with my cousins for many years for not saving me earlier, but I guess it is not their fault that I was washed away into the deep and they could not locate me sooner. I am not bitter with anyone, but I do think about the woman in the light, and I truly believe that she was the one who truly saved me. Whether she is, I will always be thankful. Whoever she is, I will always be thankful to her, and I will never forget her. As you can guess, I do not believe in the light, as you can guess, or I do believe in the light, and I am 100% convinced that it comes for people upon the brink of death or at death. The prayer I have used to exorcise my apartment was my personal prayer. I don't know where he's going with this. We didn't talk about that. Okay. All right, I'm gonna quit reading this one now because he covered the part that was important.
Right. Ariel came and saved him in her wedding dress. I
Sing. Okay. Okay, Don, you're getting muted. That's it. Don's muted, ladies and gentlemen. He lost microphone privileges for a while. All right. He's begging me to turn it back on. No. You can sit there and think about it. You ain't no mermaid, Don.
Don's in the angry chair.
Don's going to be in the corner for a while, I'm afraid.
But I mean, seriously though, I mean, maybe it's not necessarily a mermaid, but that's what they thought it was. But it's like one of those, lady in the white dress kind of things.
Sure,
that maybe it was a bride that jumped off into the trench to kill herself on her wedding day. You've heard those stories.
Sure.
So maybe it was something like that. Maybe it was it was a prom dress and they drove off the cliff. Who knows? But
yeah, it's hard to know. Holy mackerel.
So there you go, penalty butte. Yeah, Dan, that's exactly what that was. I'm in the penalty box. What's that? What you got?
Oh, I'm just checking all the emails that I got. House and when I can. Okay. All right. This one had nothing. Yes, cardiac. That's the right email.
Yep. Test.
I've got a few of them here, so just go ahead and send it when you can. And I did get an email from Dan, but that's not for the show.
It's not for the show.
No. Okay.
Thanks,
deal.
Dan.
I'll read it when I can, sir. But very cool. So I read this one, didn't I? No. Okay. This one is my grandfather saved my life. Another grandfather. See, grandfathers are showing up. They're doing their job here. Where's all the grandmothers?
Yeah. That's what the grandfathers do.
That's what I'm saying.
Those goddamn kids.
Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
All right. So to sum up a wonderful month I've had, I broke up with my girlfriend, moved out of my apartment from the previous story. Then I beat the crap out of my now ex-best friend. Bet you can't guess how the breakup with my girlfriend and the beating my now ex-best friend got are connecting.
Oh.
Yeah, I can guess. Anyways, I'm living at my grandfather's old house and had been vacant since he died in 2010. He died in the house, and after the fun month I had a week ago, one of my friends talks me into going to a party. It was fun. I had some Jell-O shots and a few glasses of vodka. Don't judge me for underage drinking because I'm sure most of you have done more when you were 17. After the fun night, a few of my friends brought me home and laid me in my bed on my back. I was very drunk. I was trying to puke, but from how I was laying, I couldn't. I was like that for a few minutes until my mom paid me a surprise visit.
Oops.
And when she saw me, she laid me on my side and chewed me out for drinking. I asked her why she was there, and she told me she heard someone say, "Go check your son."
Oh.
And I'm glad she did. The next day when I woke up, I was still puking, and I felt like someone was rubbing my back. I looked. No one was there. When I finally stopped puking, I heard someone ask me, "Are you okay, Bojack?" When I heard that name, I freaked out because my grandfather is the only person who ever called me Bojack.
Huh.
The next night, I had a dream where I saw my grandfather. He looked sad. I asked him what was wrong, and he sighed and said, "What happened to you, Bojack? You were such a good kid. Now look at you." I looked down and said, "Everyone has their own way of dealing with pain." He said, "You're right, and my death is what started it. I'm sorry." I told him it wasn't his fault. It was my choice. I chose to drink, and he said, "True, very true. I'm sorry, but it's time for you to wake up." I asked if he could stay long enough for one more question, and he said, "Fine, but make it quick." And I asked if he was the one who told my mother to come check on me. He said, "Yes, I didn't want to see my grandson die. Now goodbye." Then the alarm clock woke me up. Ever since that night, I keep having dreams about him, and I hear him talking to me during the day. And I'm so glad that he's still here.
Huh. Wow.
Very cool.
And I loved your grandfather voice. That was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to narrate. I'm trying to make this a narration fun fest. I'm trying to bring life to these stories. And I appreciate that.
Ken's suggesting a movie to us called Alienators.
Alienators.
He says it's a bit like Demon House, but UFO investigators.
Ooh.
Main guy reminds me of you.
You
mean us or me or him?
It must mean you, because I'm not in the chat.
Me? No.
It must be a long beard on there. Yeah, that's it.
True friends stab you in the front. Well.
Hey, Lord Vader, how you doing?
Yeah.
Lord Vader.
Lord Vader.
If you only knew the power of the dark side. Absolutely. So good to see you all here. We're at 23 still, or how many you got?
Well, we're 23 and 23, which means we lost 2 viewers and but gained a whole bunch of likes.
All right.
So that's kind of cool.
That's a even run right there.
Well, for now.
All right. So that was the grandfather.
Yeah, that was an awesome story.
It really was. Yeah.
Go out Jimmy Page way.
Jimmy Page is still alive.
Sorry. James Marshall.
James Marshall?
Yeah, that's what JM stands for. That's where the Jimmy comes from. Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, yeah, okay.
James Marshall Hendrix.
Gotcha. What the hell was it? John Bonham die that way too? From puking in his sleep?
I'm not sure. Drummer for Led Zeppelin, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't remember.
I think so, but yeah, it's a tragic thing. Man can only handle so much partying. A warning saved my life. This is not a things that go bump in the night experience, but intriguing nonetheless. This experience took place in Melbourne around 1991. I was about 20 years old in my OE, on my OE, O.E. I don't know what that. I was working part-time as a cleaner at a boys' high school in a suburb called Toorak. Toorak, and this is in Ken's neck of the woods, actually, in Australia. Not exactly glamorous work, but cleaning toilets used by hundreds of teenage boys. But it was a job, and it gave me enough money to pay my bills, with a bit left over for beer and drumsticks. Being a young semi-bum, I didn't own a car, so I cycled everywhere, including to and from my cleaning job. I had been working there for a good year, so I had a very set and efficient routine. I took my bike outside, spun the pedal around to get the foot thingy in the right place, jumped on, sped down the road about 150 meters to the very busy intersection. If the light was red, I would either do or try to do the balance thing where you just remain stationary and then looking at the other traffic light changing, anticipate the green light, and the second it changed, power off at a great rate of knots. Anyway, one day, no different than any other, it was time to go to work, but this day seemed different. Something was just slowing me down. I wasn't feeling tired, depressed, ill, or anything like that, but I got my bike from my room and took it outside, and something, like a voice in my head, was saying, "Slow down. Take it easy. No rush. Take your time." I clearly recall trying to get the pedal thingy to, what are those called? Pedals? He said, "What are those called?" And he says pedal thingy. They're called pedals. And seeing it spin around and around almost in slow motion, but I was not the least bit concerned and felt I had all the time in the world. There was no rush. I finally had my toe in it, and I casually pushed off and rolled down the hill towards the intersection. I trundled up to the red light and put my foot down on the road. I still had a very strong sensation to not rush and to take my sweet time. I saw the other light turn orange, so I looked down at the pedal thingy and tap, tap, tap it around it went as I tried to put my foot in it. Now, usually at this point, I would be starting to move off, both feet in the pedals, ready to rapidly accelerate down the road. Remember being 20 years old? Usually level with the first car next to me or just behind it. Now, the light turned green and the first car had already moved off, and I had casually begun cycling about, even with the second car, unheard of for me. Just then, I heard a roaring of an engine from the left. I had only had time to glance up to see a car come hurtling down the hill, probably doing 80 or 90 kilometers per hour, no braking whatsoever, shoot through the red light and attempt to pass between the first car and the second car that I was next to. Literally a couple of meters in front of me. It smashed a glancing blow into the front section of the car and careened through the intersection before coming to a screeching halt about 50 meters down the road. I remember I kept cycling, looking back in a very detached way at the car, thinking, "Holy crap," but wasn't shocked or having any "how close was that" thoughts. It was as if the whole experience was playing out as it should have. Only later on did the realization hit me of how prior to that incident I had been somehow slowed down by someone, something. I have no doubt that I had carried out my normal routines of powering through that intersection, I would have been hit by that car, and the outcome would not have been good. The next day I was back to my usual fast, speedy routine, but I did tend to look to that left side hill for a few days after. I now believe a guide was looking after me on that day, as I was somehow able to know that a car was due to speed through that red light. How that knowledge came to my mind is one of those mysteries that keeps life interesting and is reassuring that we are looked after. I know I'm not alone with these kinds of warnings, and it should be great to hear from others with their theories. Cheers. Very cool.
Yeah.
Again, what do you do? Very wild.
The pedal thingy, would that be a sprocket maybe?
Maybe.
The sprocket that's the pedals are attached to the sprocket?
It's like he wanted the pedal in a certain position, though, so he could shoot his foot into it and go away. So I suppose he was trying to rotate the sprocket. Maybe that's what he was looking for, the words, but I don't know. You got something to read, brother?
You know, I've only really been able to find one. I mean, you got the good website right there. So, but this is actually.
Well, you know, I got to use the loo. So, do you want me just to put a break?
You know, that's actually probably a good idea.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Because I don't have enough to keep. I don't think I have enough to keep going. So we'll read mine after you get back. After a short.
Yeah, it won't be a long break, but we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. I got to use the loo. All right, we'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing? Hope you had a good break. I had a pretty good one. I think so anyway. I feel all broken. So I hope you guys are enjoying the night. And, of course, if you haven't heard the news, the Paranormal Portal will be starting at 7 p.m., both Fridays and Saturdays Pacific time. So it moves our time up a little bit, but I think it'll be pretty epic. I think that it'll be awesome to start the show earlier and be able to introduce the portal to a lot of listeners that otherwise may not be able to watch the show. So I think that'll be phenomenal. And I'm excited to undertake that and see where we can end up. The dawn shadow passed by. So, at some point there were two spirits in here, Don, according to the ghost app.
Apparently it was not on me.
I don't know where they were. I have no idea. You're muted.
Okay.
So,
you don't know where they were? Not over
no,
by
I'm
me,
just
huh?
looking at the ghost app, and it's running in the side here, and I don't know when that went off.
Huh. I haven't heard any.
It was about at 7:30, so that it went off. So I don't know.
Jeez, that was like 35 minutes ago.
I know, time has been flying lately, but I am all refreshed and ready to go, ladies and gentlemen, so I hope you are ready to hear more of this paranormal wonder, but I guess I can bring you up on screen,
hey,
huh?
No, that's okay. You can have the limelight.
No. You're going to read now, aren't you?
Oh, well, yeah, I got it, yeah.
Okay,
so this is called A Dream Warning from a Dead Smoker.
Ooh.
Love that. Here's a spooky but instructive story of a dreamer who received a caution about her cigarette smoking. In her dream, she was with a number of people who are deceased. She is surprised at one point to see her mother, who is still alive, in the company of her father, who died several years before. Among the crowd, she notices a former acquaintance, long dead. He leers at her and starts acting crazy. She runs away from him, but he is faster despite his scarecrow legs. He catches up to her at a bridge. She smells his stench of rotten old cigarette stubs. He gets an arm lock around her neck and jabs something into her head. She feels excruciating pain. "You're chipped," he crows. "You'll never get away from me now because I've got you chipped." She awoke feeling desperate and afraid. I asked her to give her dream a title, as we always do in our process. She said she does not hesitate. Chipped. Excuse me. I had a double association with the word. It suggests something that is cracked or damaged. In context of dream assault, it also suggests an insertion of a microchip, a program that may be intended to control the dreamer. I asked the dreamer if she knew her dream pursuer. After a moment's thought, she responded, "We're both smokers." She added that while she could call herself a moderate smoker, the dead man smoked like crazy, at least 3 packs a day. I asked whether it was possible that the dead smoker was in some way trying to program her so that she would smoke for him as well as for herself. She shivered at this idea, but acknowledged that it was possible. She had noticed since the dream that she had been smoking more than before. I told her about people I've worked with who were heavy smokers until they realized that they had grown into the habit to satisfy dead smokers who were attached to them. I don't mind what people do as long as they're making their own choices and not hurting others, I was quick to add. If you're smoking for yourself, that's one thing. It's your choice. You take the risks on your own. It's another thing if you're smoking for some dead guy who's trying to program you so you can feed his habit. Soon she agreed to an action plan. She wouldn't give up cigarette smoking, but she would ration herself to a number of cigarettes she was smoking before the dream. Anything we do will attract or repel different energies. Our dreams are one of the ways of monitoring how well this works in the world beyond the veil of our self-justifications and consensual hallucinations. So there you go. So she had this dream of this guy who's long dead from smoking, or at least that's the inference there. And she started smoking heavier after the dream, and then went on a regimented smoking plan. Interesting. And supposedly that's a true story. So
right.
There you go.
That's the cool part.
How crazy is that?
I don't know. It's really bizarre.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Well, and I'm sure Sean and Dee will agree to this, and even Deb if she's here. I haven't seen Miss Deb tonight. You know, but our dreams could be prophetic. I'm sure they'd agree. I'm sure, you know, I believe that if you dream something and, you know, it's some kind of a portent or something, you know, I don't think it's, in my case, not necessarily spiritual or paranormal, but, you know, it's one of those gut instinct kind of things, one of those things that I pay attention to, you know. But it'd be stupid not to. I mean, what does it hurt if I do? What could hurt if I don't?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's better to take those omens as they come rather than scoff at them and be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I would agree with you. Well, thank you for reading that. That was wonderful. And we will continue on this journey into Saved by the Paranormal.
Kurt's having portal and tacos.
Actually, tacos sound really good.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
Kurt.
Yeah, I had tacos
Thanks,
last night.
Kurt. Now I'm hungry.
No, I want some
Ooh,
food.
tacos.
Mm.
That's not even fair. God, we drove by Taco Bell on the way back, too.
Yeah, we sure did.
Ouch. Well,
you could have said, "Hey, you want to stop for a
Didn't
bean
even-
burrito?"
didn't even think about it
I
until...
would have said no bean burritos.
Until
for you,
now,
sir."
someone brings up tacos, and all of a sudden they sound delicious.
No, Taz just said, "We got tacos for dinner."
Oh, man, you guys are not helping. I get fat just reading the chat, or stay fat, one of the two.
Did I tell you about the chili sauce I made this week?
No, I have never heard of this chili sauce.
Oh goodness, it burns so good.
Oh, see, I wouldn't miss that because I don't like spicy at all.
Goodness.
I mean, I don't mind like a sriracha kind of spice.
Oh no.
That to me is good and tasteful, but I don't like the spice where, yeah, I took a bite of some spicy pepper.
Uh-huh.
I can't even remember, and it's probably by pepper standards, it's not much more than a jalapeno, but it was enough to make me really not happy for a while.
Well, you know, the way I made this, you get the flavor first, and then it starts to build after that. But every bite, you get the flavor because I roasted the peppers, I had jalapenos and hatch peppers and I wasn't supposed to say that, and bell peppers.
What?
So nothing.
Hatch peppers?
I wasn't supposed to say anything.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It's the secret ingredient.
Ooh, I see.
Pair of tacos, 66 cents at Costco. Thanks, D.
I'm nowhere near a Costco, but thank you very much. All right, so let's continue on this journey and see what else we can find.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Back in 2007, when I was 23, I moved in with this man that I had known since I was a teenager. He had a sister that had recently died under some pretty tragic circumstances. He was very close to her and had a shrine of sorts dedicated to her. It was a large bookcase with lit candles, pictures of her, poems she had written, a flask she always drank out of, and a large glass cross. Every morning he would ask me to come and take a shot of tequila with him in front of the shrine in honor of Lucy, his sister. We would do that and then play her favorite song on the stereo. He told me that even though I never met his sister, as long as I was in his house, she would protect me and nothing bad would happen to me. I thought that it was very nice, but I didn't really believe that was possible or true. One night, my friend was off at work and I was doing the dishes, and my phone rang. It was an ex-boyfriend of mine who was a very violent man that was trying to get back in my life. He was also an acquaintance of the guy I was living with and had been to the house many times before I lived there. He said that he was in the neighborhood and he wanted to see me. I said I didn't want to let anyone in the house because my friend wasn't there and to wait until he came home from work at about 7 in the morning. Very stupid. Now he knew how long I would be alone. I locked all of the doors. I went towards my roommate's room to go lock his bedroom windows, but just as I reached for the doorknob, it turned. My ex-boyfriend came out of the room. He had crawled in from an open window, and he chased me into the living room and pushed me onto the couch, which was right by the shrine of my roommate's sister. He pulled out a hunting knife and told me to pull down my pants. I started to cry, and I begged him not to do this. He told me to shut up and not to piss him off. Wow, what a complete douche. Ugh. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but this is horrible. Ugh. As he was on top of me, I was staring at the bookcase with Lucy's shrine and all of a sudden the bookcase started shaking violently. And no, it was not an earthquake, as if it were going to fall over, and then all of the candles blew out. Then the glass cross flew, not fell, off the top shelf and hit him in the back. He turned around and looked at the shrine, and then the stereo came on and it was blasting. He got up and ran out of the house and hasn't bothered me since. I couldn't believe it. I know Lucy saved my life that night. Shortly after that, I moved back in with my parents. The graveyard where Lucy is buried is just down the street from where I live now.
Huh.
I visit every so often to say hi and thank you. I think we've read that one before, but just still, I mean, what a horrible, horrible situation. And I don't know what kind of broken a person has to be to ever think that that's just going to be a good idea. You know, I mean, I understand broken. I understand it better than most. And, you know, due to my professional career. Right. But, I don't know at what point.
Yeah, this is a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, when does that become okay in your mind?
Yeah.
What kind of damage do you have to have that is just fine?
No.
And it's just, I mean, it's just, oh, horrid, horrid, horrid. It just makes my blood pressure go through the roof.
Well, that's just like, people, they don't think about this, but like writers like Dean Koontz and Thomas Harris, these people who write these twisted books, it really makes you think, if they thought about it and wrote a book about it, somebody had to have thought of something similar before.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the character Buffalo Bill was based on a real life serial killer.
Yeah.
So, so you've really got to, broken. I mean, just, I'm not saying Dean Koontz or, Thomas Harris are broken, but I mean, people think of these things, and some people are broken enough to follow through with things like that. And it's just horrible, but
it's incredibly disturbing. Yeah.
Yes.
There's just,
and that's, I because I've taken the psychology classes, deviant behaviors and psychology of deviance and all that kind of stuff. And, it's disturbing. It truly is. But I mean, but as for the story, apparently Lucy came through for her,
Yeah, exactly. And
somebody
that's the beautiful part is that, okay, and that's the kind of ghost you want, ladies and gentlemen. You want the one that's gonna be like, hell no, this ain't happening in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of those things where I don't know what just happened.
What do you mean?
Oh, okay. My headphones went dead.
Okay.
I put my arm down and I must have pulled on the cable a little bit. But it's one of those things that, I forgot where I was going with that completely because it went dead. But I don't know. Just anyway, moving along. I'm not sure what I was going to say. I'm perplexed.
That's all right.
I'm sorry?
That's all right.
Okay. Yeah, but Lucy was the heroine of that story for sure. All right, the next one is the ghostly whisper that saved my life. I can't remember exactly what age I was when this happened, but at a rough guess, I was between 10 and 12. My parents had bought me a dog, Dasha, in 1984, and he became my best friend. I'd take him for a walk before I went to school and couldn't wait to finish my lessons to run and play about with him. Before other houses were constructed in the area, there were and still are plenty of playing fields, which were once mining ground, and when I was 8 years old, I actually injured myself bad when playing in one of the old coal humps. But this didn't put me off using the area as my playground. One summer evening, I finished running about with Dasha and was making my way home. It wasn't too far away. In fact, you could see the back of my house from the fields, but couldn't gain access to the rear cul-de-sac from the main road. To get home, I'd have to cross what was the main road before the bypass was built to get to a side road that led to my street that my parents' first house was situated. There weren't too many people about this particular warm evening, but it wasn't too quiet. Plenty of cars were traveling along the main road, and the odd person was tending to their garden. I walked a few yards along the road until I stopped on the grass verge opposite the side road, waited for the traffic to clear so I could cross. Half a dozen or so cars were traveling on the road in both directions. And I don't know why, but suddenly a voice whispered in my ear, "Watch out for the next car that comes over the brow of the hill." I was completely stunned. No one stood on the pavement next to me, and I instinctively knew this voice was a message. At such a young age, brow wasn't a word I was used for a clip in the road. There were plenty of other cars using the road, so why I'd be warned about a car that had yet to appear, I'll never know. I immediately stepped back off the grass verge, as close to residents' front garden walls as I could, and gazed toward my right. A brief gap in the traffic, and I watched and waited. Then the car I'd been warned about appeared. I kept Dasha on a tight leash close to me, hoping he'd protect me. I didn't take my eyes off the car for a second, hoping it would pass me by without incident, but it didn't. The middle-aged driver saw me and slowed down. His glare was strange and made me nervous. My heart raced and my legs trembled. Could this ghostly voice be right? Was there something about this driver I needed to be aware of? The driver pulled to the curb, level with me. He then leaned across and flung his passenger door open, his arm stretched out as if to grab me. I panicked, but this ghostly whisper had given me a head start, as I was no longer on the grass verge, and I got in position to run. Spotting a car in one of the driveways a few houses down, I chose to use this house as my sanctuary. I don't know how my hand didn't break through the glass of the door. I banged that hard, but I wondered if anyone was going to answer it. It seemed to take forever. I could hear a family talking, and it was coming from the bathroom area. I squeezed through the slightest gap in between the outer porch and the boundary wall and banged hard on the bathroom window at the side of the property. I was screaming, "Help me, please. A man is trying to get me into his car." A man and a woman ran to my rescue, wondering why a strange young girl was screaming for help in their garden. At this point, I was sobbing and trembling. The man of the house looked angry at what I was telling him and rushed to the front of the house. The man in his car was still sitting there with his passenger door open. He must have expected me to only stay in the grounds of this house for a moment before walking straight into his grasp. The man from the house got angry with him, and I remember him swearing a lot. The driver quickly shut his car door and sped away. The woman of the house kindly walked me back home and explained to my terrified parents what had happened. I was so grateful to these people who had assisted me out of danger and assured my safety, but even more grateful to this ghostly voice who had warned me about the car that was yet to appear at that point. I dread to think about what would have happened if I hadn't had this warning, and wonder if I'd still have been able to be alive today.
No doubt.
Yeah, that's horrid. Horrid. Right? Eesh. There's another example of
Broken?
well, yeah, well, that's I mean, that's
Sorry.
with all of the trafficking and stuff that's going on. I mean, that's just a whole different kind of nightmare.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's just, I don't know what the solution is, but I thank God that there's some beings out there that are intervening on some level to help people stay safe.
Right.
There needs to be a lot more of them.
Yep. Yep.
Or they should just take care of these clowns themselves, like haunt them into a ditch or something, and haunt the driver of that car into an oncoming truck or something.
Oh, no, because that might harm the truck driver.
Well,
Off
I'm talking about off a cliff into a deep pond or something, where the
trench.
seatbelt won't release.
That a lady in a white dress won't save.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's just, it's horrid. Ugh. I don't know.
Oh, goodness. Okay. But the bright part of the story is she was saved.
She was saved. She was not.
Let's not get dark and.
No. But it's the reality. It's
true
it's a dark world out there. There's dark people. There are dark and evil things, and it's just wonderful that there's forces of light and goodness. Without sounding cheesy, I don't know how else to say it, but thank God for that. So let's get to the next one. Did you have anything else you wanted to read, or are you good?
No, I'm still
Okay.
looking for more stuff.
Oh, that's
I'm really
fine.
not finding anything.
It's okay. I got this. I
got
got
you,
this.
Cavid.
So every summer I visit my aunt and uncle in I visit my aunt and uncle in Massachusetts while my parents go on a Caribbean cruise. One particular summer when I was 7, I caught a cold. It was just your basic common cold, sneezing, watering eyes, and coughing. Well, my uncle went back to work one day. My aunt stayed at home with me, but then my cold had escalated to a very bad fever. We ran out of cough syrup, and my aunt had to go to get some more. I knew that she was hesitant to leave me all alone, but my cough had become so bad that she'd had no choice. So she left. Their little sort of cabin-style house was isolated from the rest of the town. There was also a little lake just beyond the backyard. I loved to swim in it. So it was kind of far from the local drugstore. She'd be at least a half an hour. My cough had calmed down and I was able to sleep a while, and as soon as I drifted off, I had a dream. It was about a little boy. The boy had stringy brown hair and sad blue eyes. They look as if they'd seen many losses. Sorry, compulsive writer, I had to type that little detail. Anyway, the boy was sitting in a wooden chair. He was crying. He looked down and said, "I'm sorry. Please, please forgive me." Then he looked up again, and I could see that his blue eyes had turned a blood red. He screamed, "Get out of here!" I woke up then, and I was sweating and breathing hard and fast. Out of nowhere, I heard the fire alarm going off downstairs. I ran as fast as I could out of that house, and when I turned, I saw it go up in flames, bright red, orange, and yellow touching the skies. I was amazed and frightened all at once. The flames amazed me, the little boy from my dreams staring at me from the window of the room I just left frightened me. He was only there for like 10 seconds, and then he just disappeared. As it turns out, there was some chicken noodle soup left in the back burner. The burner was left on, and it had spilled over. I guess something was wrong with the electrical wiring in the stove, and it just blew up after the pot had boiled over into the circuits. The funny thing is my aunt had said she'd turned that pot off right before she'd left. She also said that the top had been on, so it couldn't have spilled over. I tried to tell my aunt and uncle that it was the boy from my dream. Of course, they wouldn't believe me. They're the type of people who think that there's a logical explanation for everything. I eventually gave up trying to tell them, but I knew that the little boy turned on the gas. He wanted to destroy that house for some reason or purpose. Whatever it was, I don't care. He saved me, and I'm grateful to him. If I only knew how to contact him to thank him. Wow.
I'm sorry, I will admit to missing some of this. Who turned on the gas?
The little ghost boy.
The little ghost boy who
Right.
told her to leave.
Yeah, he
tried to burn down the house.
Right.
And she's thankful that the little ghost boy that was trying to burn down the house told her to leave.
Yeah, told her to get out.
Why did he burn down the house?
I don't know. It wouldn't. There's a lot of things that go through my mind about what could have happened there, and perhaps just the memory of that house was too much, and he was a vengeful spirit, and I don't know.
Well, just wanted the house and the stone tape, shall we say, destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. There's some things
That's possible.
he wanted burned. Let that energy be transformed. Perhaps. I don't know. That's funny. All right. Okay. Someone or something saved my life. This takes place in Pampa, Texas. P-A-M-P-A. My hometown, and I never knew who or what cared enough to pull me back, but I'm still around. I was on my way home from school, and I was walking down Main Street, and there were a line of small stores and an alley leading to the parking lot in the back. I was looking at the store windows and not paying attention. When I came to the alleyway, I was ready to step out into the passageway when I felt something grab my arm and turn me completely around. I looked for the person, but no one was there. And as I turned back to walk on, a huge truck raced out of the alleyway, and if I had not been stopped when I did, I would have been killed. I looked for someone to thank, but could see no one on my side of the street. And I have never told about this until now. I'm not sure if this other story has to do with ghosts, but something or someone was again watching out for me, or I would not be writing this. My life was again in danger in 1972. I lived in Cleveland, Ohio at the time, and I was married with 2 children, one on the way, and I was seeing my doctor regularly and doing all the things to have a healthy baby. I was about 2 weeks until Thanksgiving, and I began to have severe pains in my side and was running a high fever. My husband took me to the hospital, and they said I had appendicitis. My first concern was for my unborn baby. The doctors assured me it would be fine, and after the operation, they said they could see the baby on my womb, and it was thriving and well. I was satisfied. 2 weeks later, I went into labor, hard labor. My husband rushed me to the hospital, and the baby was born, but it was stillborn. The doctors told me I had been carrying the child for 3 months, and it was already dead.
Wow.
The doctor said I should have died. How I survived, I still don't know. Wow. Okay.
Huh.
That's got to be a tragic thing, right?
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah. Well, another savior.
Huh.
Someone looking out for her is next. So I hope you guys are enjoying these stories. I hope you guys are getting something out of these. I think they're wonderful. I think the cool part is that, again, to reiterate that it's nice to know that maybe we're not alone. And I know these things aren't like superheroes. They're not like these ever vigilant forces that always will rescue us from danger. But I think there's certain periods in life where you hit these crossroads. Mm-hmm. And these are like key crossroads in the way something is supposed to happen and the way it's not supposed to happen. And that's when I think these interventions, or these divine interventions or spiritual interventions, happen. It's, not everything that could happen to you, like, wow, that dude just came up and punched me. Why didn't something jump in? Well, it's not relevant to the whole scheme of things.
It doesn't matter.
Right. Or, oh, God, I lost my wallet. Where was the angel then, or the guardian spirit? Again, it's not really, really relevant. It's unfortunate, and it's terrible that it happened. But there's these certain junctures where there's two outcomes, and one is the way things should be, and the other is the way things shouldn't be. And that's when I think these interventions come in to try to steer things to the way that they should. And, it takes an incredible charge, I think, for these things to happen. But when they do, to those, whoever they happen to, should know that it was, really important enough of a situation that they were spared, that they were saved. Right. Are these people to go on and do something incredibly amazing for the rest of us that couldn't happen if they had not made it through that, or what? I don't know. Maybe they will bring to life a child someday that will go on to have children, and so many generations down the line, this will be like the next, Gandhi or, Martin Luther King, or somebody that really does make a huge change in the world for everybody. Who knows? Who knows? But just know that if you've been fortunate enough to have this kind of intervention, then there's a reason you are supposed to be alive. And I think that that's pretty powerful.
Right. Yeah. That's and that's the way, it is. And of course it works the opposite way too, because what if the voice said, don't let that child be born, or right. You'll be thrust into a land of hell, or right. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know.
But how would you decide that particular, thing? It's like, well, the voice said to not let the baby live. What are you supposed to do? And then out pops, Hitler. Gandhi,
right. Well,
Attila
I don't know.
Hun,
that's an interesting point. I wonder. You don't see those stories. Like, I had a demon baby and I let it be born. You just don't see those stories. If you do, I don't think most of us would probably give them a whole lot of credibility just because it sounds so sensational.
Right.
But is that the opposite? Is there an adverse opposite to this, that maybe there's negative things that make sure things happen a certain way because of negative things coming? I don't know. I suppose it's possible, but I choose to... maybe it's altruistic, maybe it's rose-colored glasses, but I choose to believe that these kind of interventions are the sole territory of good.
Right.
Sure. That maybe the negative can't do these kind of things. Maybe it can. I don't know. But I like believing the way I do. I like the way I think.
I kind of like the way you think. I'm just here to throw that little spin in there.
I think that's an important viewpoint. That's a great angle, and not, it's something I wouldn't have considered, but it's a great point. Is that possible too? Maybe. I hope not, but maybe. Okay. So first, some background. I broke up with my boyfriend, later husband, when I was 5 months pregnant. When my daughter was about 2 months old, I moved from San Diego and rented a 2-bedroom apartment across the border in Mexico to be closer to my parents. I was too scared to leave my baby in daycare, and they offered to help since my work was in California. I would have to cross the border every day to get to work, and I would have to get around 4:30 a.m. and was not back at the apartment until about 8 p.m. By the time I put my baby down, got all my stuff and hers ready for the next day, I would fall asleep exhausted. One typical night, I was sound asleep when someone calling my name awakened me. I was not sure if I had imagined it, so I stayed really still, waiting to see if I heard it again. After a few seconds of silence, I decided I had been dreaming and that I was starting to fall right back asleep when I heard the female voice urgently calling my name. I was so tired that I could not open my eyes. I'm not ashamed to say that my mother instincts were not kicking in. I was just too tired. Suddenly, I felt someone poke me in the ribs. I mean, this was so painful that I immediately shot up with a big ouch. I looked all around the bedroom and there was no one in sight. I sat there confused for a few minutes when I suddenly felt the urge to go check on my baby. When I approached her crib, I saw that somehow her blanket got wrapped around her head and was covering her face. I pulled the blanket off and saw that her face was purple and sweaty, and she was gasping for air. I panicked and ran out of the apartment with her, screaming bloody murder. I knocked on my neighbor's door, and they came out and took her from me. At this point, she had already began crying and was breathing again. After making sure she was going to be okay, I found myself back in my apartment, unable to get back to sleep. That is when I remembered the poke and the voice yelling my name. I got up and checked the mirror, and there was a very faint bruise forming on my side. I was both scared and grateful. I cried just thinking of what would have happened if I had not gotten to my baby when I did. This was my very first experience with this woman entity, but was not my last. A few times after that, when my daughter would cry in the middle of the night, as I was getting up from bed to go to her, I would hear a woman's voice in her bedroom go, shh, shh, in a very soothing voice. Once when she was about 6 months old, I made the stupid mistake of setting her on the breakfast bar and turned to pick up my keys that had fallen. And as I was turning back to get her, I saw that she was falling, and just before she hit the floor, it seemed like she had been lifted and gently placed on the floor by someone I could not see. I know some of you are thinking guardian angel, right? That's what I thought until she was about 2 years old, and then her guardian angel turned into our worst nightmare. All the bad things started when my daughter's dad and I decided to give it another try, and he moved in with us. I'll put that in another story since this is one got too long.
Wow.
So, yikes.
Wow. But the baby turning blue or purple and gasping and sweating. And,
oh, God, yeah.
Big purple bruise. Well, you know what? That's okay.
Yeah, I mean,
all right.
It might have shocked you, but, the alternative would be,
detrimental.
Yeah, it's something you just don't come back from the same. So, thank God, I guess.
Crazy.
Right? It's a bunch of craziness here on the portal, ladies and gentlemen, but I tell you,
wild and crazy guy.
I guess I could read her other part. This is the other part, I think.
His mom came to help, huh?
Well, no, this is different, I guess. I don't know if this is the same one.
Well, if you go, because you can go back and click on their name.
Yeah, that is.
Oh,
it
okay.
Is. Yeah, so it's the same name. This one is a different one, but this one's a phone message. I like those too. So this is the 3 submissions by the same author. A few months before my father passed away, he told my mother that his dead mom had come to visit him. He explained to my mom that she looked so real that for a few minutes he forgot that she was gone and asked her what she was doing there and how she got there. He said my grandma told him that she was there for him and that everything was going to be okay. He said she told him, I'm here now, I'll take care of you. Everything is going to be okay. Realization hit him that he was talking to his dead mother, so he closed his eyes and took a few deep breaths, and when he opened his eyes again, she was gone. My mom reassured him that everything had been a dream. My dad recently had one of his legs amputated, so she chalked this up to him being depressed and imagining things. A few days later, as my mom was assisting my dad out of bed because he needed to go to the restroom, she noticed that the rug next to his bed had gotten tangled up on the wheelchair, so she kicked it out of the way and wheeled my dad out of the room. She said she decided that while my dad was in the restroom, she would come back and straighten up the room and change the sheets, open the curtains to let some light and air in, etc. So she left my dad in the restroom, grabbed clean sheets, and went back into the bedroom to straighten up. And what she saw next made her heart plunge to her stomach. She says that the rug that had been straightened out and was neatly laid out next to the bed, and the bed had been made and the curtains had been pulled back. She completely freaked out and ran out of the room. She and my dad were supposed to be the only ones in the house at the time. The next morning, my mom walked in the bedroom to see if my dad was up and he was ready for breakfast. My dad was just waking up and in that state between sleep and wake when he mumbled, "She didn't mean to scare you. She just wants to help." He didn't remember saying that when asked about it later. Another time my dad told my mom that his deceased mom and brother had come to visit him and told him not to be afraid and that they were going to be with him when it was his time. My dad passed away 2 days later.
Wow.
Yikes.
Wow.
Right? That's pretty amazing. All right, let me look. I'm just seeing. I got one more, and then I got a couple other ones I can read. Different sort, of course. So this is the other one that same author sent. My father passed away in May 2006 due to complication with diabetes. He had been fighting an infection in one of his feet for several months. He went to see a lot of doctors in the hopes that they would be able to save his leg. Unfortunately, they were not able to save his leg, and it ended up being amputated. After the surgery to remove his leg, my dad was never the same. He was constantly depressed, in a bad mood, and a completely different person. He passed away 7 months later. I and other members of the family experienced several unexplained incidents around the time of his passing, before, during, and after. And this is just one of those incidents that I myself experienced when I was alone. Maybe 5 or 6 months after he passed away, I was going through some cupboards in the kitchen looking for I don't remember what when I found a little blue cell phone that used to belong to my mom. She had purchased a new one about a year before and gave that to my 5-year-old daughter to play around with. I think this one sounds familiar, but we'll read it anyway. I thought it was a pretty cute phone to be stored away without being used, so I started pushing buttons and was able to get it to turn on. I'm not sure what button I pressed when I suddenly heard my mom's voice coming from the speaker that said, "Hold on, let me have you speak to him." Next, I heard my dad's voice talking in that happy, carefree voice he used to have, saying, "I'm feeling much better now and there's no more pain. I can walk again and don't worry about me, I'm fine." Yeah, we did read this one not too long ago.
Did, yeah.
My heart skipped a beat and I had tears running down my face. I hugged the phone to my chest as if I was holding him and just went down on my knees crying. After a few minutes, I got up and went to my bedroom, taking the phone with me. I needed to hear his voice again, so I sat it on the bed and started pushing buttons to get the recording back, but the phone was dead. I ran around looking for a charger that would fit the phone. I was dumping the contents of the drawers looking for that cable like a crazy woman. Later, I was able to get the phone charged, and no matter what I did, I was never able to get that recording back. I asked my mom if she remembers ever having or hearing that conversation since I heard her on the phone too, and she says she doesn't remember and doesn't know what I'm talking about. Excuse me. Now, I'm not saying that my dad recorded that message from the grave. I think he could have been talking to a family member when he was alive and somehow that part got recorded. All I can say for sure is that the message was received exactly when it was needed the most. That is really cool.
Yeah, that is a good story.
Really, really good story. Yep. Okay, so let me move on to this one. Now, these are not necessarily these are more people's experiences.
Kind of like my story, dream stories.
Right. This is dreams trying to tell me something. This is smaller. Let me blow this up a little bit. Let me give this a little boost. Better.
Oh, now I can read it. Thank you.
I get very tired on the bus ride home from school, which is about 20 minutes. I start to fall asleep, but I try to stay awake. 2 weeks ago, when that was happening, I fell asleep, and I heard the sound of a hairdryer. And imagine the image appeared of me seeing in first-person view, which most of my dreams is in the third-person view. The image was me looking down at the hairdryer that's on, and I dropped it in the water. I am in, and it's a very loud electrical sound, which sounded like it was happening in real life. And the lights went out, and I jumped up, saying, "What happened to the lights?" And people looked at me. I was wide awake the rest of the ride. When I was dropped off at the end of my street, I was walking home, and I was stopped because a telephone pole snapped and the wires were laying on the street.
Oh.
I walked around through the woods, when I got home, the power was out. I believe that the dream was trying to tell me about that, but in a different way. Just yesterday, I had another dream on the bus. In the dream, an image of red numbers appeared saying 231, 2:31. And then an alarm clock appeared with the numbers on it, and the clock was sitting on a small round table with a vase of flowers and a photo in the frame. Excuse me. Then I looked out the window, seeing in first-person view, and outside it was dark, cloudy, windy, and rainy. And then I look back at the clock, and it says 2:34. And I hear the sound of tornado sirens, and they were very loud and woke me up. They sounded like they were actually there in real life, not in the dream. I was wide awake the rest of the ride. Later, when I got home and was watching television, I fell asleep on my couch, and an image of dark, fast-moving clouds appeared, and there was a sound of whirling wind in the distance that gets louder as it comes closer, and got so loud it woke me up. I think that these may be dreams trying to tell me of what will happen in the future. Hurricane season is almost here, so I think they might have to do with that, but I'm not entirely sure. And that's the tough part with dreams, is they can be incredibly cryptic and hard to decode. I mean, it's one of those things. A lot of times, dream premonitions are, after it happens, you go, "Oh, I had a dream about that," but they're not specific enough to use in a lot of times before something happens. It's usually afterwards and be like, "Oh wow, I had a dream that really freaks me out because I dreamt this was happening," and it does happen. But I don't know. But I think the dreams are a function of, our waking mind and our subconscious mind, and sometimes it's just hard to understand what all the symbols mean and what the translation is.
Yeah, and that's what I've always wondered, is how do people, who have dreams like that, where is the handbook that says, if you dream this, then you're doing that? I mean, I know there are literally books out there that say, well, if you're flying in your dream, that means you're free and you're a free spirit. And well, okay, I can see the relationship there, but I mean, what does a Red Cross, and electricity got anything to do with anything? I mean, just random things to me. Okay, yeah, a hair dryer dropped in the wire that you're in, and you're walking home and there's a power pole on the ground. Yeah, it's possible, but I don't think that's prophetic. I think it just happenstance.
Could be.
But I mean, show me the book, I'll believe it.
All right, I got a couple more here. If you're in the mood.
Certainly. I'm
always in the mood.
That's my job.
All right, well, let me get it here. Hold on. All right, the first one is the ghost of my first home and the one that saved my life and one who saved my life. So I guess this is a couple of them, and it's a lengthy one, ladies and gentlemen, but we're here for the long haul. So I was born in England in the 17th century, 17th century. Wow. 17th of January.
Wow.
Hello.
Where did that century come from?
I don't know. Maybe my past life. I don't know. All right, 17th of January, 1976 at 4 a.m. My parents were my now late dad, French-born Francois, who was a policeman and retired decorated captain of the French Air Force and a good pilot, and my wonderful mom, American-born Annalisa, who had trained as a hairdresser and worked then as that and a photographer for a local newspaper. I have 2 older brothers, one younger, and a younger set of twin sisters who are identical. I was born in London, and we moved to a nearly 120-year-old home near King's Lynn when I was nearly 2 months old. It was a beautiful old house with a massive backyard and a chicken shed. We kept chickens for eggs, and we soon acquired a dog, a collie cross Labrador named Lassie, go figure, who was amazingly sweet and gentle. She loved us kids, and our 2 cats, Miz, who was a female tortie, and Flax, who was a male ginger, both whom put up with us kids quite well, considering there were so many of us always wanting to play with them. I miss them all so much now. The house was on a quiet lane that ended in a farmer's paddocks. There was plenty of other kids to play with, and lots of space to run around and play games. It was a kid heaven. It wasn't until we had lived there for nearly 2 months when my parents realizing they and us 3 kids at the time were not alone in the house. And the first time they noticed anything was when a ghost saved my life. My mother had put me down for a morning nap at about 10 a.m. and had gone across the hall from my bedroom I had to myself, being the only girl, my 2 brothers shared a room, to go and have a shower. This is what she told me later on, as I was too young then to remember what happened. And the story is used with her permission. My mother was in the shower, washing her hair, etc., with the bathroom door open, just a crack so she could hear me if I cried or whatever. And just as she was about finished, when she heard what sounded like doors up and down the hall slamming open and shut, then open and shut again. Then a voice, she said, sounded like an older woman say to her, "Check on the baby, please. Go now." She got startled as she was the only person at home at the time. My brothers were at our neighbors playing, and my dad was at work 5 miles away. And there was no old lady in the house that day who was living anyway. Scared something bad had happened, the doors slamming and the voice. My mom has had ghost experiences all her life, being half Sioux. She is spiritually sensitive, as all of her family are. She ran out in the hall to see all the door rooms wide open, and then when she had left, all but my room door were shut tight, and she went into the shower. My door was creaking back and forth a bit on its hinges by itself, and she knew something was trying to tell her something was wrong. As she was running across the hall and into my room to my cot, she heard the voice again say, "Check the baby, quick now." She ran across to my cot and looked down. To her horror, I had somehow got my head caught between the mattress and the solid side of the cot. Yeah. If she had waited even a few seconds longer, I would have suffocated, as my nose and mouth were pressed hard up against the side of the cot, and I couldn't breathe. After screaming, she grabbed me and, moving the mattress up and sideways a bit, managed to get me out. She called my dad at work, and he rushed home. They took me to the hospital nearby, and after being checked over by 2 childhood doctors, I spent the night in hospital and came home with a clean bill of health the next morning. My mother told me, and she still believes to this day, that a spirit in the house saved my life by warning her that I was trapped, as there was no way I could have freed myself. Needless to say, I was okay, and the cot was quickly replaced. I never had another problem like that again. As I got older, though, my mother told me about other ghosts around that house. Some I remember, some I don't. I was 4 years old when we moved to France. More stories on those homes to come. And here are some of the ghosts we encountered in that King's Lynn house. King's Lynn house. I'm not sure what that means, but a little boy dressed in clothes from about 1890 playing with a small ball in the backyard. My brothers swear he would always try to play with them, and when they'd be out there, never said anything but looked really sad all the time, and was often seen with tears on his eyes and in his cheeks. That's so tragic. A black and white cat we named Punk because of the spiky hair on the top of his head. You would see it looking like it was sleeping and curled up, sometimes in the middle of the kitchen floor, sometimes in the middle of the TV room floor, which was right next to the kitchen. It would never be doing anything but sleeping and curled up. Now, these are a list of the ghosts they experienced, one of which was a cat, apparently. A lady who would walk up to our door from the front gate and disappear just before she got to the door. Could be the woman who warned my mom. We would see her make her trip, appearing at the gate from nowhere and then disappearing about 3 steps from the door, just as suddenly. Dressed from about 1920, never said a word to any of us. It would go on for about 2 hours with 4 to 5 minute break between appearances. She would freak out friends and visitors, and once my visiting paternal grandma. A spirit unseen who would at all hours switch on and off the TV room and the kitchen lights one after the other. This would be followed by footsteps up the hall to what was then my parents' room, then nothing else until the lights started again. It would happen 2 to 3 times a night, always the same way, no visuals, only sound. The footsteps, I remember, sounded like a very tired person trying to get to bed. So, very cool.
Wow. You know, yeah, you know, you hear a lot of stories of kids dying because they get their heads stuck between, you know, the mattress and things. And it's not just because their face is smashed, but because of positional asphyxiation. You know, it's like a kid can be sitting in their car seat, and you know, if they're not in correctly, their head lolls down, and they actually, you know, chin to chest, they suffocate.
Sure.
So, you know, but, you know, scary enough, just having your head stuck in there, you know, and just all the craziness. That's how old did they say that? They said it was like 120 years old, or was it just an old house?
The house was 120 years old.
Okay, yeah. So it's got some
some history
stuff,
yeah. Yeah, there's no question. That was the house. That's not my first ghostly experiences, but a house I used to own was built in 1894. And that house had a really cool spirit. And that's where the chandelier fell out of the ceiling. And the kitchen door, which was one of those double-way kitchen doors that go thump, thump, thump. It was old, beautiful walnut door. And it would hang up on the carpeting and take a good amount of force, but every once in a while it would just go thump, 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 like that. And we had this squeaky, really cheap dining room furniture. It was like that tubular brass stuff with the weaving on the seat and on the backrest. And that stuff would squeak like mad when you sat in it. And my ex-wife would be alone, and I would be working. I used to work evenings, and she'd be sitting there studying because she was going to college at the time. And the chairs would start squeaking, and the door would thump, thump, thump. And, oh, man, she was just fit to be tied. But, yeah, a lot of weird experiences.
No doubt.
Those old houses, they got a lot of spirit themselves. And literally, if you're, if you follow a lot of the different beliefs around the world, like there's a thing called a domovoi. A domovoi, it's a house spirit.
Okay.
It's like a caretaker spirit that every house is supposed to have. Comes from Slavic lore, and I read about them the other night, but I've known about these for years. But there are these little impish things that the Slavic people believe are part of every house has a domovoi. So, if you want to, if you're having tough times in a house, appeal to the domovoi.
Dobie loves master.
Yeah, it's kind of the house elf kind of thing, right? That's a pretty good analogy, actually, because they are these little impish things.
Yeah.
They're not little people. They're these little beings, and they seem to be spectral, and they have intelligence, but
just don't give them any clothing.
You don't feed them after midnight. No.
Don't get them wet.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get them wet, and don't feed them after midnight. No, I don't know. But very cool. All right, I got one more I want to read here. A dying language saved me. I'm happy with the response. Blah 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 blah. Miraculous work. I'm just getting through all the fluffy stuff. This story I'm about to write is about how the Irish language saved my life when I was 15, and I've never forgotten the kind words that saved me. You all know them too, but I'll tell the story first. My friend Paul and I had just finished a great game of football in the Phoenix Park, And this story comes from Ireland, actually. So, and we're now sitting down on his front lawn drinking gallons of water. It was a hot August. And resting our soon-to-be aching bones. I stretched myself out, flat on my back, and looked towards the reddening sky. Or heavens, now as I call it, instead of sky. I held a smoke between my lips and took a very long pull on it. Without removing the cigarette from my lips, I blew the smoke and watched it dance towards the heavens. Then I heard the oddest thing. Irish. Not the word, the language. You should know before I continue on that only 1% of Irish speak their own language on a regular basis. Gav mu lashke. And how does this? An wil gwel ga ag ut. Excuse me, do you speak Irish? Is what it translates to. Sha, yes, I responded as I propped myself up on my elbows and looked down the length of my body towards an elderly man standing at the garden gate. Who the hell are you talking to? I'd forgotten Paul was even beside me. Normally I wouldn't have responded to a ghost so quickly without first looking about to see who was around me, yet on this occasion I had. It made sense later. I turned to Paul and promised to explain it to him later on, then turned back to my visitor and asked, Con us tau tu, how are you? And he responds in Gaelic, I guess it's Gaelic, I'm fine, thank you. Paul sat looking at me as if I had 20 heads. But I continued talking to this gent, not knowing why I was so important that I did so, just feeling that it was. He took a step towards me and then said, what's the time, please? I looked at my watch and was about to give it to him when he was right in front of me and shouted, look out, paused, and then said, may God and Mary be with you. This took me by surprise, not the fact that he was screaming at me, but his last sentence, this is actually a greeting. It's how you say hello to someone in Irish who has already said hello to you. It was also said with a slight warning tone. Then, as usual, he was gone. I sat there a while longer, looking in the direction the old man had appeared. Then I just got up, went to Paul's house, and ate my dinner. The visitor had left me slightly shaken, and also warm-hearted. He was pleasant, if somewhat strange visitor. I did explain to Paul my gift, who shrugged it off with disinterest, but he believes me now, as a mate would, without conviction. It's easier for some people to continue believing the world is flat. That's what it says on here. I left this house close to 10 o'clock that evening and started my long journey home. His house was located on Black Horse Avenue, some 40 minutes from my home in Cabra. As I was walking, I decided to go through the park and up into my road through Donard Estate. I heard something moving beside me. The park is full of foxes, deer, rabbit, badgers, so I thought nothing of it until I heard a clicking sound coming from my left. I stopped in my tracks and turned to face this obtuse sound. It certainly did not belong with the other sounds in the park, and what I saw I will take to the grave. It stood 4 feet tall, sloped over, so I would guess it would be taller, and had its arms dragging on the ground. It was just an outline, of course, but so very real. I took a step back and heard a small growl, I guess. That's the only way to explain it, so I stopped again. I'm done for, is all I thought. This thing wasn't letting me get anywhere without its permission, and it didn't seem like it was going to give it. When I looked back on it later on, there wasn't any other sounds around us, the two of us. Everything was silent, and that's when I heard the words again. Dia is mur duit. I remember the old man and his warning, but didn't know what he had meant. Oh, God, help me. I spoke. The thing stepped back slightly. My mind was racing now. Don't think that I have ever been as clear-headed in my whole life as I was in these moments. But I started saying the Hail Mary. It wasn't working. The creature started towards me. Moving over leaves and falling branches, its image becoming clearer, I would describe it, but I'll leave you with this instead. Remember your worst nightmare and multiply it by 50, and that's what this thing was starting to look like. I was panicking now. Every part of me wanted to run away, but I held fast. Then I closed my eyes. I was actually waiting for the worst to happen and said, Our Her, the Our Father in Irish. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed. I was alone. The space in front of me was empty, nothing around me. I started to think I had imagined it until I heard Guhan wa air food, well done. It was the old man's voice. I couldn't see him, but the warmth was there. I went home and slept well. I've never forgotten that experience the same way I've never forgotten any of them. But that's a nice one with some heritage. I'm happy to know my own language, and I thank God every time I visit his home for my Savior ghost.
Huh.
Very cool, huh?
Crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and you know, you just gave it your all with the pronunciation.
Oh man,
there.
they were just phonetic and everything, and I still couldn't.
I wouldn't have even tried. I would have just, because you skipped one and you said, you know, may God bless you, and I was like, yeah, that's what I would have done. I would have said, may God bless you in Gaelic. You know?
Yeah. Right. I assume that's the tongue he's talking about. Is
that's
the Irish
what that's what I would assume as well. Maybe it's not. Maybe maybe it's more Celtic. I don't know. But,
right.
But that's the first one that comes to mind. But that's that's interesting to hear.
Yes.
Another language spoken as such.
Right. Exactly. I think that's a cool story, though.
Can you believe it's 9?
I can. It feels like 9, not in a bad way, but it feels like I've been reading for a long time.
Yeah, you have. You've pretty much carried the show, and I appreciate that. I just can't find anything that falls into the category tonight.
Right. It's just a matter of I just happened to hit a treasure trove of sorts.
Yeah.
So
I did find top 7 apps for paranormal investigating.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
You'll have to, I guess, email me that link if you would, and I'll use it on the show on Friday.
Oh.
It'd be kind of cool to put that up there and see what people think. Because I think these apps, I mean, a lot of them are hokey and stupid, but I think there's something to it in the magnetometers being used. I'm not really so sure about the phonetic generator kind of stuff, but I think it's interesting. And the responses we got the other night were absolutely hilarious. I mean, they were just absolutely on cue. So.
They were, yeah.
So it does lend yeah. I mean, it kind of gives me that belief that maybe there is something to this. But I'm in some ways I have a very open mind, but I still need proof of some things. I think there's some really fantastic claims out there. And until I see it demonstrated, it's just a fantastic claim.
Exactly.
Not that I'm naysaying it, but I just think it's,
I don't mean to say it's a naysay.
Right.
It's a naysay. That would be scary.
Right.
Naysay pop up here. Hey.
Hey. Yes.
That's funny.
Absolutely.
Oh no, but yeah, that's interesting. And the only peep we've heard out of the one that's running right now was Donna before the show, right? And then 2 supposed ghosts. Spirits.
Okay, so wait, I got one from Cardiac. You're not. Did Cardiac want me to read this now? Let me see.
Cardiac, if you're still in here, chat with us. Do you want us to read this on the online or on the
Tonight Show, or can we read it on Fridays? Is that okay? I'd rather read it on Fridays because I love sharing them with the whole network audience.
Well, she says sure, but if you want to.
Sure, which way? We gave 2 options there.
Cardiac, we like to read listener submitteds on our network shows, which are Fridays and Saturdays. Which, by the way, if you don't know, we are moving to 7 p.m. all 3 nights, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So better time. But we usually read them on Friday or Saturday. Are you going to tune in with us then? We'd sure like to do it that way.
Right, if that's possible, I'd rather wait until then. It's just fun to share those with thousands of people that are listening when we're on the network. But let me know. Mackinstood says read it now, but it's not your story, Mac. So I gotta defer to Cardiac, whatever they want me to do.
She says okay. I have the weekend off.
Oh, sweet. Okay, so I'll tell you what, we'll bring that up on Friday.
Yeah, nice.
And on Saturday we have a guest coming, but I'm going to put together the promotional stuff. And another Bigfoot investigator, very established, and really they've really captured some really amazing evidence, and and such, and we'll go over that on the show on Saturday night. But I will wait to announce that until I have the promotionals all ready. So
she says, "What network?" Well, Cardiac, actually, you're part of our YouTube crowd, so you can catch us 7 o'clock on this channel.
Yeah,
Paranormal Portal YouTube.
Right, we'll be right here, but it'll also be simulcast on TFR Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, TalkStream Live as well, and those are the Friday, Saturday shows. And that's when the number on the screen will work for calling in as well.
Right.
So that's an option. So yeah, you can catch it right here on YouTube where you're watching us now. We'll just be back on Friday night, and we'll get into it then. But thank you guys so much. All of you have sent in stories. I'm really absolutely thrilled that we'll be able to open the show on Friday with that. That'll be huge. I love those. Those are absolutely my favorite part. Either call-ins or the emails are my favorite part of the show. And I love it all.
There you go.
All right, guys, we love you so much. Be good, be kind, be nice. And we'll be back on Friday night, again, 7 p.m. on Pacific time. So the time slot has changed. If you haven't gotten the message yet, 7 p.m. Friday night, and we'll be back here doing what we love the best.
Ooh, Weird Kootenays. It's a website that has local paranormal reports.
Oh, nice.
We were just talking about that earlier, too.
Oh, some of that. Very cool.
So Weird Kootenays. Nice. Okay, cool. Thank you.
We're going to look that up after the show and have a look at that.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, guys. Love you bunches. Thank you so much again for being here and being a part of the Paranormal Portal. Please spread the word to anybody that you know that likes the paranormal as well. And again, if you have an account or an encounter of your own that you'd like to share, please email it to paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. And we will be happy to read your story as well on the air. They are my favoriteest stories of all. I like my own stories as well, but I like your guys' just as much because I've already heard mine.
Right. Well, thank you, everyone.
All right, guys. Love you bunches, and we'll see you Friday
7.
night. So be there,
Bye.
and we'll be waiting.
We will.
We will. We'll keep the lights on for
And
you.
besides, my jug's empty.
And with that, there's nothing left. Don will be on fumes, and he'll get ugly in a hurry. So good night, guys.